She called at 9:47 p.m. I remember the exact time because I was already half asleep, phone face down on the nightstand, and her name lit up my room like a secret I wasn't supposed to see. "Don't tell anyone I called," she said first thing. "No greeting." Just that, soft, careful, like the words might bruise if spoken too loud. And I couldn't. She had that voice, low even, but threaded with something she was trying to hide. I'd heard it before in the small ways she said my name, the way she asked for help with something she didn't really need help with. When I saw her again that week, she pretended nothing had happened. She stood by the open window of her art studio, hair tied up, sleeves rolled to her elbows, the smell of turpentine and something faintly floral filling the air. The evening light made her skin look soft, too soft for someone who always acted like she didn't care what people thought. "You shouldn't be here this late," she said. "You called me." That made her pause. Her brush stopped mid-stroke. She didn't turn, just let out this quiet, almost smile of a sigh. That was different. She always said things like that, unfinished sentences that left me guessing where they might end. I walked closer, the floorboards creaking under my shoes. The air felt heavier near her, full of paint dust and something unspoken. She didn't move away. "You ever sleep?" I asked. "Not when I should." Her eyes flicked toward me, not long enough to count as a stare, but long enough that I noticed how tired they looked. There was a kind of grace in her fatigue, like she'd made peace with it. I leaned against the edge of the table, close enough to see the faint shimmer of gold paint on her wrist. She caught me looking, then slowly wiped it away with her thumb. "Old habits," she murmured. "What habits?" She hesitated. "Calling people when I shouldn't." The room went still. Outside, a car passed, headlights slicing through the blinds. She didn't look away from me this time. "You think too much," she said. "You talk too little." That made her smile. Not a big one, just the kind that tugged at one corner of her mouth and disappeared before she let it show. For a moment, neither of us spoke. She set the brush down, crossed her arms, and leaned against the table opposite mine. The space between us felt like a line neither of us wanted to cross, but both kept inching toward. She smelled faintly of rain and coffee. Her hand brushed mine once. Accidental or maybe not, and the warmth of it stayed longer than it should have. "You're staring," she said quietly. "Yeah." She didn't move. Her eyes softened, almost daring me to say something more. Then her phone buzzed, loud in the quiet. She flinched first, then stepped back, the air between us breaking like glass. "I should get that," she said, voice suddenly brisk. "Sure." She turned away, picking up her phone but not answering it. Her thumb hovered over the screen. Then she glanced back, as if remembering I was still there. Her lips parted, like she wanted to say something. Apology, invitation, I couldn't tell. Instead, she just said, "Don't tell anyone I called." Again, but this time she was closer. Close enough that I could hear the breath she held back, and close enough to know she didn't really want me to promise. And then a knock at the studio door. Her hand froze midair. My pulse did too. She looked at me, wide-eyed for the first time since I'd known her. "Don't move," she whispered, and she went to answer it. The knock at the studio door came again, firmer this time. She hesitated, glanced at me once more, then opened it just enough for a man's voice to filter through. "Older. Familiar. Just dropping off the frames you ordered," he said. She thanked him quickly, polite, distant, then shut the door before he could say anything else. The lock clicked. She leaned against it for a moment, eyes closed. I didn't move. When she turned around, her face had that practiced calm again, the kind people wear after too many close calls. "Client," she said, as if explaining something that didn't need explaining. I just nodded, but I could still see the small tremor in her hand before she reached for her coffee cup. "You don't have to look at me like that," she murmured. "Like what?" "Like you're trying to figure out if I'm lying." "Are you?" She smiled faintly. "Aren't we both?" That silence afterward was heavier than anything she'd said. I knew a few things about her, Not much, but enough to see the outlines of what she didn't want to share. She'd been married once, briefly, left the city after, spent the next decade teaching, painting, moving through quiet places that let her disappear when she needed to. And me, I was the student who stayed after class too often, offering to help clean brushes, stretch canvas, fix the studio lights. I told myself it was about art, about learning. Maybe it had started that way. Now it wasn't. "You don't talk about him?" I said before I could stop myself. Her hand paused halfway to her mouth. "There's not much to say." "Still," I said. She tilted her head, studying me. "You think silence means there's a story, doesn't it?" She took a slow sip, then set the mug down. "Some things are quieter than stories." The distance between us was maybe 3 feet. I felt every inch of it. The hum of the overhead lamp, the way the air seemed to hold its breath when she stepped closer. It all made noise somehow. Her sleeve brushed my arm. A second too long to be accidental. I didn't move. Couldn't. She looked up at me then, not the way a teacher looks at someone younger, but the way someone tries not to admit they've been thinking the same thing you have. "This isn't," she started, then stopped. "You should go." Her voice wasn't firm enough to mean it. I waited. She turned away, busying herself with a stack of sketches, pretending to sort them. Her hair slipped loose from its tie. I caught the faint scent of jasmine as I reached to hand her a stray sheet that had fallen. Our fingers met. Neither of us pulled away. Her eyes flicked up, searching mine. Wary, searching for sense, but there was warmth there too. Something tired, something alive. "Do you ever regret calling me?" I asked quietly. She breathed out, a shaky, half laugh. "Every time I see you," she said, and yet her hand stayed on mine. Neither of us moved until the clock on the wall clicked to the next minute. A small, sharp sound that somehow felt like the only thing keeping us from doing something we'd both already imagined. She didn't let go. Not yet. The studio felt smaller that night. Maybe because she'd turned off the main light, leaving only the desk lamp and the pale spill of moonlight through the window. We were working or pretending to. She'd asked me to help organize her canvases, though most of them just stayed stacked between us, untouched. Every time I moved one, she'd glance up, like the sound of the frame against would pull her somewhere she didn't want to go. "You're quiet tonight," I said. "You like to fill the silence," she murmured, not looking up. "I like hearing you talk." That made her still. She set her brush down, then pressed her palm flat against the table as if grounding herself. "You shouldn't say things like that," she said softly. "I shouldn't feel them either," I said. The words came out before I meant to let them. Her eyes lifted to mine. For a heartbeat, she didn't move. Then her phone buzzed on the counter. A message. Another. She reached for it, but I could see the name flash on the screen. Evan. Her ex-husband. Her hand hovered above the phone but didn't touch it. The sound of each vibration felt louder than breathing. "You can answer," I said. She looked at me like I'd said something impossible. "Not now." The air between us tightened. I stepped closer, close enough to smell the faint trace of turpentine and citrus on her skin. Close enough to see her pulse beating lightly at her throat. "You always do that," I said. "What?" "Hold everything in. And you always try to fix things that aren't broken." Her tone was sharp, but the way she looked at me wasn't. Her chest rose and fell unevenly, her lips parting as if to take in more air. "Tell me to leave," I said. "I don't want to." That silence after, it wasn't empty. It was full of things neither of us should have said. I reached for the brush near her hand, just to do something. Our fingers touched. Once lightly, then stayed there longer than either of us planned. Her eyes flicked down to where our hands met, then back up to mine. "Someone could walk in," she whispered. "It's midnight." She swallowed, voice unsteady. "You don't understand what people say when they see things they shouldn't. Then don't let them see." Her laugh, low, quick, nervous, slipped out before she caught it. "You really are too young." "Maybe," I said, stepping closer. "But I know what I want." Her back hit the edge of the table. She didn't step away. My hand was still near hers, and for a long moment, neither of us moved, her breath brushing against my chin, my heart hammering too loud for how still the room was. "You should go," she said again, but it came out as barely a whisper. I leaned in, close enough to feel the warmth of her breath on my cheek. She didn't move. Then, footsteps outside. Voices. Laughter. We froze. She pulled back sharply, brushing past me to kill the light. The room fell dark except for the thin blue line of moonlight cutting across her face. "Students," she whispered. "They come in sometimes to grab supplies." We waited, still as shadows, until the sound faded down the hall. When she turned back to me, her hand found my sleeve. Instinct, not intention. "See?" she breathed. "This is why." But she didn't finish, because I was still standing too close, and she hadn't let go. The air between us was a single breath wide. Neither of us crossed it. Not yet. The next night, rain. Not a soft kind, the hard, steady kind that pinned everything down. The kind that made you stay. She hadn't planned to see me. I knew that from the way she opened the door. One hand on the frame, the other gripping her sweater closed at her chest. Her hair was loose, damp at the ends, and her expression flickered between surprise and something she didn't name. "I thought you'd gone home for the weekend," she said. "I tried." She hesitated. "You shouldn't be here." "I know." Neither of us moved. Water ran from my jacket onto the floor, forming small dark pools that crept toward her bare feet. She looked down, then back up, and whatever resolve she'd had cracked a little. "Come in," she said finally. The studio smelled like rain and oil paint. She had music playing, slow, instrumental, the kind that filled the silence without erasing it. I set my bag down. She crossed her arms, watching me like she was waiting for me to say what I really came for. "You've been avoiding me," I said. "I've been protecting you." "From what?" She exhaled, almost laughed. "From me." That did something to me. Not the words, but how she said them. Like she believed it. Like she was dangerous only because she cared too much. "You think I don't know what this is?" I asked. "Then why are you here?" "Because you called," I said quietly. "And I haven't stopped thinking about it since." She looked away, jaw tightening. The rain outside grew louder, like it was pressing its weight against the windows. I took a step closer. "You're not the only one trying to protect something." "Don't," she started. But her voice faltered when I reached up, slow, careful, and brushed a strand of hair from her cheek. My fingers lingered just a second too long. Her eyes fluttered closed, and I could feel her breath catch. "You make this hard," she whispered. "Then stop pretending you don't want it to." Her eyes opened, sharp, bright, wet around the edges. "You think this is simple? You're 24. You have a life that hasn't even started yet. People talk, I don't care." She shook her head, half smiling, half breaking. "You should." "I can't." The silence that followed was almost unbearable. She looked at me, really looked, and something in her softened, all the practiced distance gone. "You don't know what you're asking," she said, voice barely a breath. "Then tell me." Instead, she stepped closer, just enough that her sweater brushed my chest. I could feel the warmth of her body through the damp fabric. Her hand came up, slow, uncertain, resting against my collarbone. "This is already too far," she said, though she didn't move away. "I know." Her eyes dropped to my mouth, and the space between us disappeared by degrees. Inch by inch, breath by breath. Then the power flickered. The music cut off. The room went dark except for the stormlight flashing through the window. Her breath hitched. Her fingers gripped my shirt. I could see her silhouette, the curve of her throat, the hesitation trembling in her hands. "Say something," she whispered. "I can't," I said. "Not if I want to stop." And then she didn't step back. Not this time. The power stayed out through the night. We didn't move for a long time. Just the sound of rain and breath, close, uneven. Then, almost too quietly, she whispered, "You should go before this gets worse." But she didn't move away. I could see the faint shape of her face in the stormlight. Her eyes, wide, conflicted, searching mine like she was trying to undo what had already happened. Worse, I said. Or real. Her hand twitched, as if to push me back, but it only brushed against my chest instead. That tiny touch broke her calm. The way her breath hitched, the faint tremor in her fingers. She turned away fast, pressing her palm against the cold windowpane. Outside, lightning cracked across the street, white and fast. In that flash, I saw her reflection in the glass. Tired, frightened, and still beautiful. I shouldn't have called you that night, she said. You keep saying that. Because I mean it. Then why'd you do it? Silence. Only the rain answering for her. When she finally turned back, her voice was lower. You weren't supposed to hear the message. What message? Her throat tightened. The voicemail. The one I left before that call. I thought I deleted it. I frowned. You didn't. Her shoulders slumped, the truth pulling her smaller. Then you already know. I shook my head. I never listened. Something in her changed. A flicker of disbelief, then relief, then something close to grief. She stepped toward me slowly, like each step was a confession. I called because, she started, voice trembling, because I missed him, my husband. I was trying to call him. The words landed heavy. The air between us shifted, not colder, but sharper. My pulse stumbled. And you called me instead, I said. She nodded once. By mistake. She said it like she wanted it to end there, but her eyes gave her away. Regret and longing tangled in them like wires sparking too close. So all of this, I said quietly, started because of him. Her jaw tightened. Maybe, but it didn't stay that way. The storm outside deepened, thunder rolling low. The lamp on her desk flickered back to life, dim, enough to paint her face in soft gold. She stepped closer again, close enough that I could feel the heat of her. Her voice dropped to almost nothing. When you didn't hang up, she said. I listened to you breathe, for too long. I shouldn't have, but it felt like... She stopped. Couldn't finish. I swallowed hard. Like what? Her eyes lifted to mine. Like I wasn't alone. That was it, the line that unspooled everything. The loneliness she'd been carrying. The reason she couldn't stop calling. The reason I couldn't walk away. For a second, all I could do was stare. The stormlight flickered across her face. Her lips trembling. Her hands open like she didn't know what to do with them anymore. Then I stepped forward, slowly, until my forehead brushed hers. You're not, I said. She breathed in shaky, fragile. Her hands rose, hesitated, then rested against my chest. This isn't fair to you, she whispered. I don't care. Her lips parted, like she might finally say what we both knew. But instead, she whispered, then don't make me stop. And she didn't pull away. The rain had slowed to a hush by the time either of us spoke again. Her hands were still against my chest, light, uncertain, as if she couldn't decide whether to hold on or to push me away. I don't know what happens after this, she said finally. Then don't think about after. Her laugh was a whisper, the kind that cracked in the middle. You always make it sound easy. It's not, I said, but it's real. The words hung there, trembling in the air between us. Her eyes found mine, searching, measuring, like she was trying to see if I actually believed what I just said. Outside, thunder rumbled far off, softer now, fading into the night. When she moved, it was slow, deliberate. She stepped closer until I could feel the warmth of her breath against my throat. Her voice dropped, barely audible. If we cross this line, there's no going back. Then maybe we stop pretending it isn't there. She exhaled, shaky, quiet, and her forehead touched mine. The contact was small, almost nothing, but it burned. I could feel the faint tremor in her shoulders, the way she was holding her breath to keep control. People will talk, she said. Let them. Her hands slid higher, fingers curling lightly around the back of my neck, then stopping, hovering there, as if she needed one more reason to pull away. I'm not someone you can keep, she said. I've already broken too many things I cared about. Then let me choose what I'm willing to break. That did it. Her breath caught, and for a heartbeat, neither of us looked away. The world outside vanished, the storm, the past, the rules we'd built between us. I reached up, tracing a damp strand of hair away from her face. Her eyes closed at the touch, her lips parting just slightly. The air between us pulsed, close enough to feel, too fragile to name. You shouldn't, she whispered. I already did. For a long, suspended second, it felt like the whole room tilted toward that moment. The wanting, the fear, the years between us collapsing into something that didn't belong to either of them anymore. Then she leaned in, just barely, close enough for her breath to tremble against my mouth, close enough that the choice stopped being something we could think our way through. But she stopped there, just before it became too much. Her forehead pressed to mine again, and she whispered, You make me remember what it's like to want something and be terrified of getting it. I didn't answer. My hands were on her arms now, steady, waiting for her to decide. And finally, she did. She pulled back half a step, eyes bright, voice breaking but sure. This can't be forever, she said. But tonight, I need it to be real. I nodded. It already is. She smiled, small, raw, unguarded, the kind of smile you don't give unless you mean it. And when she leaned into me, resting her head against my chest instead of my lips, it wasn't surrender. It was understanding. Outside, the storm ended. Inside, neither of us pretended anymore. Morning came quietly. No thunder, no rain. Just that washed-out calm that follows a long storm. The studio smelled like coffee and paint and something softer, something new. She was already awake when I opened my eyes. Sitting by the window, one knee drawn up, watching the street outside as if she was waiting for the world to remember her. The light caught the edge of her hair, and for the first time, she looked at peace. Did you sleep? I asked. Barely. Her voice was hoarse, warm. She smiled a little. You? Not really. She turned then, her eyes meeting mine, and that look was enough. The hesitation that had haunted her was gone, replaced by something quieter, steadier. I thought I'd regret last night, she said. And do you? She shook her head slowly. No. I just don't know what to do with it. Maybe we don't have to yet. She laughed under her breath. That soft, broken sound I'd come to know too well. You make things sound simple. Only when they are. For a long moment, we didn't speak. The city outside was waking up. Car doors, birds, a bus stopping at the corner. But inside, time stayed still. I got up and crossed the room. She didn't move when I stood behind her, just leaned back slightly so our shoulders touched. My hands rested on the window frame beside hers. We stayed like that, watching people go by, the world looking the same even though everything had shifted. You know, she said quietly, I spent years pretending I was fine being alone, that I'd made peace with it. And now I think I was just scared of being seen. I turned toward her. She didn't look away this time. I see you, I said. Her breath caught, not like before, not from fear, but from recognition. She reached for my hand, threading her fingers through mine, slow and deliberate. You shouldn't have to carry this, she whispered. I'm not carrying it alone. Her eyes softened, and she leaned forward until her forehead rested against my chest. The weight of her felt right there, human, fragile, real. I wrapped my arms around her, pulling her close until our breathing found the same rhythm. It wasn't a promise. It wasn't forever. It was just this warmth in the quiet, two people who finally stopped running from what they wanted. After a while, she looked up, still in my arms. What happens now? I smiled. We paint. We live. We see what doesn't fall apart. She laughed again, quiet, but this time full. The kind that left her eyes brighter, her shoulders lighter. Outside, the clouds were breaking, light spilling across the floor. She leaned into me once more, her head against my chest, my thumb tracing lazy circles over her knuckles. For the first time, neither of us felt like we had to hide. And that was enough. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?